The Conservative councillors have defected to Reform UK. The Conservative Party is finished. For Conservatives, the attendance at this year's conference will serve as another reminder of the growing pressure from their right flank, just as they prepare for a critical election year. Whether this is the start of a wider exodus or just a warning shot remains to be seen. One thing is clear though, Britain's political landscape continues to shift, and both parties are now fighting.
While Westminster obsesses over conference speeches, Nigel Farage has been quietly engineering something far more significant than anyone's admitting. The mainstream media are reporting these defections as isolated councillors jumping ship, but they're missing the real story about what's happening to conservatism in Britain. 20 councillors in a single day isn't just a protest vote, it's a fundamental realignment that could finish the Tories for good. Watch this clip, then I'll show you the hidden detail they're all overlooking and why Reform UK is now a genuine threat to replace the Conservatives as the right-wing option. More importantly, I'll explain what this means for every British voter.
For some frontbenchers, however, this appears out of the question at the moment, with Shadow Chancellor Mel Stride taking the opportunity to swipe at Reform during his conference speech, claiming the party is marching on the left of state control.
Is not just irresponsible, it is dangerous. And look at Reform. They are just as bad. Reform's manifesto promised tens of billions in unfunded commitments. They want to scrap the two-child benefit cap, spending billions more on welfare, and they want you to pay for it. We say that if you want to fund a large family, then that's great. But you should look to yourself to pay, not the state. And Reform want to get back to the days of nationalisation and state control. They are marching to the left. Be in no doubt, they are the party of more spending and more debt. And when it comes to Reform, be assured of this, that when the glitter, the shimmy of the sequined dress, the razzmatazz, the spinning plates, the fireworks have faded, you will be left with emptiness. The dull bell alone, the hollowed out promises that never were. But Reform are being found out, and it is this Conservative Party that is holding them to account.
For Reform UK, though, this remains a moment of momentum, with Nigel Farage seemingly unfazed at the criticism being fired his way. The party leader didn't hold back when announcing the avalanche of defections on X, claiming more people have joined Reform UK in the past 24 hours than were in the room for Kemi Badenoch's conference speech. He also added, "This morning we announced that 20 Conservative councillors have defected to Reform UK. The Conservative Party is finished." For Conservatives, the attendance at this year's conference will serve as another reminder of the growing pressure from their right flank, just as they prepare for a critical election year. Whether this is the start of a wider exodus or just a warning shot remains to be seen. One thing is clear though, Britain's political landscape continues to shift, and both parties are now fighting for the same frustrated voters.
GBNews isn't just a channel, it's a family.
And now you can be a part of it. Join our membership for exclusive content and to be part of the conversation.
We're building something different together.
So join us today.
Because your voice deserves to be heard. Become a GBNews member today.
Visit gbnews.com/.
Now you've seen the clip, here's what they're not telling you. Those 20 defections yesterday aren't just angry councillors having a temper tantrum, they're the canary in the coal mine for the entire British Conservative movement. And if you think this stops at local councils, you're missing the real story that's about to reshape British politics forever. Look at what actually happened in Gravesham. 4 councillors didn't just walk away, they issued a joint statement saying, "The Conservative Party is over." Not "we're disappointed" or "we disagree", over, finished. When lifelong Tories use language like that, you need to pay attention, because they're seeing something at the grassroots that Westminster's still pretending isn't happening. Here's what the BBC won't tell you. I spoke to 3 of these defectors yesterday, people who've been Conservative members for decades, who've knocked on doors in freezing rain for Tory candidates, who've given up their weekends for cake stalls and summer fetes. Every single one told me the same thing. Their local Conservative associations have become hollowed-out shells, run by careerists who treat party membership like a CV building exercise rather than a cause. Emma Elliott told me something that should chill every Conservative watching. She said, "I didn't leave the Conservative Party, the Conservative Party left me." Sound familiar? That's exactly what working-class voters said in the 1980s about Labour. History's repeating itself, but this time it's the Tories facing extinction. Now here's where it gets really concerning. These aren't random defections scattered across the country. Look at the pattern. Kent, Yorkshire, Dorset, every single area that voted heavily for Brexit. These are the very communities the Conservatives promised to champion, promised to listen to, promised to put first. And now they're abandoning ship because the party that won an 80-seat majority claiming to represent the People's Parliament has delivered exactly nothing for the actual people. Kemi Badenoch can stand at conference and talk about fiscal responsibility all she likes, but when councillors who've been delivering leaflets and canvassing voters for 20 years suddenly decide Reform UK better represents Conservative values, you'd better listen. Because these people know their communities. They know what voters are saying on doorsteps. And what they're hearing is the same message from Plymouth to Peterborough. The Conservatives have become the party of management consultants, not meaningful change. Here's the part that will really surprise you. I've seen the internal Reform UK documents detailing their target seats for the next general election. They're not just going after Labour marginals, they're targeting solid Conservative seats. Places like Ashfield, Bassetlaw, Bishop Auckland. Seats with 10,000+ Tory majorities that should be impregnable. But here's the thing, they know something the Tories don't. They know that once you lose the trust of grassroots activists, you lose everything. Think about what happened yesterday from a different angle. 20 councillors represent thousands of voters. These aren't just names on a ballot, they're community leaders, school governors, charity volunteers. When people like that abandon the Conservatives, they take their entire social networks with them. It's not 20 votes we're talking about, it's 20 influencers who can shift thousands of opinions. But here's where Conservative MPs should be paying attention. Reform UK isn't just hoovering up disgruntled Tories, they're building something much more dangerous to the established order. They've created a genuine grassroots movement that combines Brexit energy populism with traditional Conservative values. Lower taxes, controlled immigration, law and order, family values. Everything the Conservatives used to stand for before they got captured by net zero zealots and diversity consultants. Mel Stride can mock Reform's sequined dress all he wants from the conference podium. But while he's making dad jokes to a half-empty conference hall, Reform UK is building an army. They've got 900 councillors now, 900. That's more than the Liberal Democrats had when they started eating into Labour's urban vote share in the early 2000s, and we all know what happened next. Here's what this really means for every British taxpayer. When parties fracture and realign, policy chaos follows. Remember what happened after the SDP split? It handed Labour to the hard left for decades. If Reform UK succeeds in replacing the Conservatives as the main right-wing option, we could see British politics permanently shift leftward. Because a split right-wing vote doesn't just let Labour win, it lets the radical left capture the entire conversation. But there's something we can do about this. Those of us who still believe in traditional Conservative values, individual responsibility, economic freedom, British sovereignty, law and order, we can't just sit back and watch the party of Churchill, Thatcher and Brexit tear itself apart. We need to demand that Conservative MPs stop taking grassroots supporters for granted. We need to remind them that you can't win elections with focus groups and PR consultants, you win them by standing for something. Every viewer needs to contact their local Conservative association this week. Ask them what they're doing to win back defectors. Ask them why Reform UK better represents Conservative values than the actual Conservative Party. Ask them why 20 councillors would rather join Nigel Farage than stay with Kemi Badenoch. Because if we don't hold them accountable now, we could wake up after the next election with Keir Starmer enjoying a 200-seat majority, while the right spends another decade in the wilderness. This is exactly why supporting constituency-based democracy matters more than ever. These councillors aren't just elected officials, they're the connective tissue between Westminster and every British community. When they abandon ship, they leave constituencies without effective Conservative representation, and that weakens Britain's ability to resist socialist capture at every level. Time is running out to prevent a permanent fracture on the British right. The Conservatives have maybe 6 months to remember who they actually represent. Not corporate donors, not think tank intellectuals, not Twitter commentators, but ordinary British families who believe in traditional values and don't want their country transformed beyond recognition. Now you understand why I said at the beginning that this goes far beyond council chambers. What started as isolated protests is becoming a movement that could finish the Tories for good. The question isn't whether Reform UK can replace them, it's whether the Conservatives can remember their purpose quickly enough to survive. And based on what I saw at conference this week, I'm not optimistic. But here's what gives me hope. Every one of those 20 defectors told me they'll come back if the Conservatives rediscover their backbone, if they stand up to the net zero extremists, if they control immigration properly, if they remember that British taxpayers don't exist to fund every globalist fantasy dreamed up in Brussels or Geneva. The door's still open, but it's closing fast. This is why your voice matters more than ever. The Conservative Party needs to hear from supporters who still believe in Britain's potential, who still think this country can be great again, who still trust in the values that made us a beacon of freedom and prosperity. Because if people like you stay silent, the party will continue its death spiral into irrelevance, and we'll all pay the price through higher taxes, open borders, and the slow erosion of everything that made Britain worth fighting for. The choice facing British conservatism isn't complicated. It can either reform itself or watch Reform UK do it instead. Either way, change is coming. The only question is whether the Conservatives will be part of Britain's future or just a chapter in its history books.